So you had this vision of a center with a mission in mind. So how did this become a reality? The mission of the center, the vision that you had.
Well, you make it sound like it was some grandiose thing.
Well, it is.
I was teaching at the college.
Okay.
And I realized there were a lot of people in our community, Tonington and the county and 14th Ward, who were really interested in art. They didn't necessarily want to take classes for credit because that implied to them hard work or something, I guess, I don't know. Although I had plenty of people in my classes who took the class for no credit, you know, and they were perfectly happy. So anyway, I had some friends that were interested in art. Joan Allen, who was a needleworker. Bess Caton, who was a visual artist, like I was. She was a painter. And who else? Now I can't think. Tondalea Van Leer, who was a craftswoman, and she eventually became affiliated with the college. Who else? There were 4 of us. Well, anyway, it'll come to me sometime. So we decided, the fire department in downtown Clifton Forge had just moved out of their building, which is that building that's right next to the city hall. That small brick building that's right there. So we thought, that building's not being used for anything. Maybe the city would agree to let us have it free, you know. We didn't want to pay any money for anything because we didn't have any. So we went to the city council and they said, well, you can go look at it. We're not sure what we want to do with it. So we went over there. Oh, it was Joan Allen. Did I say Joan Allen?
You did. Mm-hmm.
Joan Allen, Bess Caton, and Tondalea Van Leer, and me. There were 4 of us. So we haul ourselves over to the to the fire station, and of course we had to go upstairs to see what was, you know, what was there. Well, you'll never guess what was there.
Oh goodness!
It was all kinds of emergency supplies in the event that we got a bomb dropped on us. Oh. They had been up there from, I don't know how long, whatever that scare was, remember? You know, whatever year. But at any rate, we got so tickled because there were bedpans. It was just utter chaos. But we thought the space is okay. So we went to city council and we said, we think the space would work if you would be agreeable to letting us use it. Well, then they decided they had to have some money. And we said, well, we don't have any money. Then they decided they didn't want to be used for that. So that was the end of that. At that very moment, guess what? The Alleghany Highlands building became available. It was the electric company building, and which you can tell because in the kitchen, there's a painting in that window that was done for the electric company when they owned it. And anyway.
It was a demonstration.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that building. And there wasn't, except that it was in a terrible state of repair. And it was so huge. You know, we all thought, my goodness, you know, this is, and of course they wanted money for it. You know, it wasn't free. So at any rate, we went out in the community to see what kind of money we could raise. We started with 5 people, and each one of those people took 10 citizens in Alleghany County to go and ask for help. Well, let me tell you, they all said yes. Oh. We had 50 people that agreed to be on our board. Right. When I announced that to the Virginia Commission for the Arts, we eventually got hooked up with them too. They said, you can't have a board of 50 people. Well, I said, well, what am I going to do? Tell them they can't be on the board? And they said, you'll come up with something. And I did. We had Norman Scott, who was a banker in town, on the board. And Norman was cantankerous as anything, but he was smart as a whip. I remember somebody got up and said, oh, we had a fellow from the college. Oh, he taught computer out there. Clayt Anderson was I guess he wasn't the treasurer, but he was in charge of the computers. And he would drag stuff. He'd go down to the art center, do this stuff on the computer. Then he would take it to the college because we didn't have a computer. And finally he got up at a meeting. He says, I can't do this anymore. He says, I won't do it anymore. It's too much. And he said, you have to get a computer. So Norman Scott got up and he said, we can't afford a computer. And so we can't have a computer. Whereupon little Bernice Ford got up out of her chair. Bernice was 80 years old and not a shrinking violet. And she said, my son says that no one can live without a computer. And she sat down. And we got the computer, but Bernice paid for it.
Oh. About raising money.
Oh, well, that turned out to be easier than we thought. Okay. Because we had this huge board, we told everybody they had to raise money. So we got all the names, businesses, everything, divided them up and handed them out, sent people out to see what they could do. And do you know, I don't think one single soul said no. Okay. They all came forth with their money, and some did better than others, but not only were these people willing to give man hours, but they were all willing to give money too. Okay. So we raised $50,000.
Wow. That's a lot for back then.
Well, yeah, we were totally, we had to raise 30 because to buy the building, that's what the building was. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, we were totally amazed that so many people gave us money. I remember I went to one of I can't think what bank it was in Covington. It was a branch, of course. And I wrote them a letter and asked for money. And I said to Norman Scott, how much should I ask for? He says, ask for $10,000. He said, you always ask for more than you expect to get. I said, oh, okay. And so I asked for $10,000. We got $10,000. And I was so absolutely astounded, and I thought, Norman Scott is no dummy. Right. So we got $10,000. Wow. We got enough to buy the building and to operate, we figured, for a year if everybody was a volunteer, which of course everybody was. So there's no problem there.
Let me know, because so you talked a little bit about how your 50 board member and volunteers. Did you have to spend time recruiting volunteers, or did you just always had enough?
Oh, of course, eventually we had to recruit volunteers, but for I would say the first 5 or 6 years we didn't have to. We had plenty of people that wanted to work down there, and they volunteered their time. And the volunteers we had from the beginning had an array of talents. You can't imagine all the things they brought. Okay. Business acumen and artistic talent and knowledge about all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And they just made the Art Center a wonderful place. Yeah. It was very alive, and we had classes we started off the first year when we opened. We started with a full schedule of classes for the whole year. Mm-hmm. And the first class was filled. I mean, everything just went. And the first programs were beautifully attended. Everybody worked for nothing, And that was also a wonderful thing, right, to see people giving their time. And these weren't dummies, these were professionals that had experience in what they were doing.
That's terrific. So tell me about some of the activities. You've mentioned classes and just programs. My understanding is that you had speakers in the gallery, you had overnight trips to other galleries, and just the outreach. Tell me about some of those activities that you used to do.
We had people that came in that did programs, and they weren't amateurs. They were all people that were professional in what they did. And they did wonderful programs, and of course, that led the public to believe that they would get something good when they came. So that fostered more. Then I realized at the college, because I had taught there for a while, that we had a teacher, Tony Thayer, who was a lady of the world. She was from, New York, I think, or maybe she was from Maine, but anyway, she was a firecracker. She was an older woman, and she had come to this area because her father was located out there someplace in the county, I don't know. But at any rate, Tony organized art theater trips to New York. Well, they weren't just dinky little trips. They involved like at least 3 Broadway productions and dining at nice restaurants, and she would give you directions to what to do and this, that, and the other thing. And then we did things during the daytime too. It was, I took my son Jim, who was a high school senior, on one of those trips. And I think he was very reluctant to go. But he roomed with Sid Smith. You remember Sid Smith? And I think Sid was out all night, which Jim thought was pretty great anyway. But it was a wonderful trip, and we saw wonderful plays, and we had really wonderful dining experiences. And I remember one night after one of the plays we'd seen, Tony says, "Come on, I'm going to take you to a New York hot spot." At any rate, we went someplace, where you could have drinks. And I'm trying to think. My son was he didn't have a drink, of course, but he was observing. And when he came home, he said, "You've got to get some sort of liquor." At any rate, it was the thing where you hang a spoon, you float the liquor on top of the thing. I don't know what it was called. But he came home and insisted we had to make that at Jim. Is that what you got out of the trip? Anyway. But we did lots of trips like that.
So you've shared lots of memories. What is your favorite memory?
Oh. That's a crazy question. I don't have a favorite.
You don't have a favorite memory?
No, they were all wonderful memories. I guess my favorite memory of the place would be the people that worked there.
Okay.
Everybody that worked was a volunteer, and they did it because they wanted to. And they gave the best they had, and their special interests they brought to the art center. So it gave us a lot of variety and a lot of excitement. We had, you go upstairs on the second floor, and I don't know if that old printing machine is still upstairs or not, but it was up there for years unless they towed it away. And Norman Scott got that someplace that had it brought up to the second floor. And he and Hank Bagby, who was the treasurer for several years, set that thing up. And they printed the first cookbook we ever put out. And, people did those sort of things.
Right,
it was like nobody found it too much work, or nobody wanted somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
They were happy to do it.
So do you think the center became all that you imagined it to be when you first started thinking about the mission and getting it started?
More than we imagined. I don't think we had any idea what we were going to become. I mean, we really had no vision of the outreach that the Out Center was going to have in the community, because it had a large outreach.
Right.
And it was an exciting place to be.
So, in what ways do you think the center has been an asset to the region, culturally or economically?
Well, all you have to do is drive down the highway and see those brown signs that the Art Center paid for, have put on the highway. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, because they cost us $4,000 which we thought was an enormous amount of money. But then Norman Scott said, that's nothing to what it's going to do for us. And I want to tell you, from the moment they went on the highway, people came in from all over the country. It increased. And so I hope that if those signs eventually disintegrate, that somebody finds out what it costs to replace them.
We're sort of in the midst of that right now with one of the signs, but I think we're going to be able to manage it. So yeah, we wanted to keep those signs because there are people every day almost that come in and say
Exactly.
they're there because of the brown
signs.
sign. Yeah,
They just brought a tremendous amount of traffic.
right. Were there other art organizations going on at the same time when Alleghany Highlands Arts and Crafts Center started, or?
Well, Joan Allen taught a group that was called the Embroiderers Group, and they are still in existence. And of course, Covington maintained its art group of visual, they were painters primarily.
Okay.
And they organized the first, they had painters from not only Covington, but Clifton Forge as well. And they organized an art show every year. And so that's what we have at the Art Center annually. I've forgotten what we call it. The art show that we have in the spring.
The fall festival?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
okay.
organized that fall festival. And
Okay.
so it was, a fact before we became an organization.
Okay.
But it soon became, we were the ideal place to have it.
Right.
They didn't have to move around.
Right.
But
So-
there was always a great interest in the visual arts in this community. And so that was not what we had to work on. We had to work on poverty. We were poor, and the heyday of Clifton Forge was over. So, will it come back? It is coming back somewhat.
Yeah. We're so blessed to have the Art Center and the Masonic and
Right.
the School of the Arts
Right.
and
For a small town, we're pretty interesting.
right. So I hear that one of those persons that began this journey with you, however many years ago it's been, that you continue to meet and correspond with, Elaine.
Elaine Feinstein. Right. We speak every Saturday night. If you have a message, I'll be happy to give it to her. Elaine left here because of her health, and she went first to Boston and was in I don't want to say, it's not like in a retirement home.
Okay.
That's where she was.
Okay.
But then she was there for 10 years or something. But her daughter and husband, who lived there, retired and went to Colorado to live. And after they'd been there 1 month, they both had jobs again, and they're both retirement age. But Elaine did not want to go west. That's where her younger daughter was. But she went, because that was her choice. But Elaine was a lively, interesting, intelligent woman who taught history at the college and had lots of interests. And we became pretty good friends and enjoyed one another a lot.
So, I'm the new director at the center. Do you have? I'm the new director at the
Yes.
center, So, do you have some advice for me?
No,
No.
you either have it or you don't. It would seem to me that you're doing fine.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but you have to have confidence in yourself, and you have help from all these wonderful volunteers. So, what else do you want?
Well, your story and the story of the center is an inspirational one. And we are so grateful to you for telling it and sharing it for us so that we can share with others and other people like-minded that maybe maybe they're someplace and would like to start some kind of a center like this. So it's an encouragement.
Well, don't have them started in Clifton Ford.
No.
Have them work for you. I think the center was a wonderful addition for the city or for the county. I mean, it is an area thing. It isn't just Clifton Ford. Mm-hmm. And that is one thing that I've always tried to push, and my husband too, that this is an area. You know, we only have, 30,000 people or something like that? Mm-hmm. Well, that's nothing. If 30,000 people can't work together to make something happen, then you might as well forget it.
Exactly.